All praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, Hakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. This is the brother Yakanan from the GMS Houston Church, and just a quick lesson going into a war and rumors of war. You know, there's a lot going on always, and as we're in the last days and get closer and closer to the day of Yahushai's return, hey, you're going to hear about different wars and rumors of war and different things like that. You're going to hear about earthquakes in diverse places. They like the scriptures say. So I'll just go ahead and jump into it. This is Matthew 24 and verse 3. And this is the AMP, the Amplified. And shoot, the header says signs of the Messiah's return, or Hamashiach. Christ just means anointed. So the signs of the anointed's return. So while Yahushua was seated on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately and said, "Tell us, when will this destruction of the temple take place?" Now this happened in 70 AD. The temple was destroyed. And tell us, when will this destruction of the temple take place? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end? It says completion, consummation of the age. So what it says in the KJV, it says end of the world. So what it's really saying is the end of this age, because who was ruling at that time? The Romans. And who was ruling before them? You had the Greeks. Before them, the Medo-Persian Empire. Before them, the Babylonians, and so forth. This is the statue, I should say, that's in Daniel chapter 2, and then also in Daniel chapter 7, which I'm going to go to right now. So just showing, this fourth beast. This is Daniel chapter 7 and the AMP as well. It says the vision of the four beasts, and I'm going to jump down. And here, I like this, the AMP, because a lot of times it's very helpful, because it'll tell you what it's talking about in parentheses or in brackets. Say for this beast is broken down, and it tells you what the empires are. Now, with all these, things like Blue Letter, this Bible Hub, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because it will go off. So if the Holy Spirit is working with you, you'll get the understanding. You'll be led, to the truth. So let's see here. I'm going to jump down to verse 7. It says, "After this, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, I saw a fourth beast," and it says in parentheses, "the Roman Empire, terrible and extremely strong, and it had huge iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that came before it, because it had senates, it had elections and Caesars. It did things differently than previous kingdoms, where they had kings and the heir to the king would rule next. This had where you had an election. People that the rulers were voted in. It says it was different from all the beasts that came before it, and it had 10 horns, which represent 10 kings. In modern day, this represents NATO and EU countries. And then, jumping down, matter of fact, this is relevant to this time. It says, "While I was considering the horns, behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, and 3 of the first horns were pulled up." So this is representing, more into modern times, because this beast fell and was revived. And while these horns pretty much stayed the same, this represents the Spanish, the French, and the British, representing those 3 major wars that happened here in America, to where America is the one that sprang up out of the British and that took over this land. So another horn, a little one, and 3 of the first horns were pulled up by the roots before it. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth boasting of great things. So this is a very stout, proud, devil. And you know America, it says America the proud. They have music, music, the symbolism, all this stuff going into the pride and being American. And this place is hated by all the other nations around the world because of their pride. And also you see, in the AMP, they broke down all the other kingdoms, but they couldn't break down in parentheses or anything this little horn that came up. They don't know what it is, but it represents America, Babylon the Great. And really, this little horn that popped up, a little one I can get to it, this little horn that sprang up, representing the whore that sits on the beast. Because this fourth kingdom is the beast, but that little horn is controlling the beast. This little whore, little horn, it represents the whore, represents Babylon the Great, that's controlling the beast and all this. So now the disciples are asking them, because they're in that fourth kingdom and they know that the Messiah is here. So I'm going to jump down a little bit more. It says at this point, the books were opened after this. And then verse 11, then I kept looking because of the sound of the great and boastful words which the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and given to be burned with fire. And this is going to be the judgment that happens to this beast, this whore, Babylon the Great. And this is going to be the major place that burns up, America. And it's going to be destroyed by the laser from the chariots when Yahushua returns, and also from the thermonuclear destruction, from the warheads, from missiles, from intercontinental ballistic missiles. So as for the rest of the beasts, their power was taken away. As a matter of fact, I was going to jump down. As for the rest of the beasts, their power was taken away, yet their lives were prolonged, for the length of their lives was fixed for a predetermined time. So meaning they're going to go into captivity. They're going to go into slavery. It says, the Son of Man presented. I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, on the clouds of heaven, one like a son of man was coming. He came up to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. Matter of fact, and to him, the Messiah, was given dominion, supreme authority, glory, and a kingdom. So this is Yahushua. He's returning, and he's getting the kingdom. He's receiving, everything is getting given into his hands. That all people, nations, and speakers of every language should serve and worship him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which shall not pass away, and his kingdom is one which shall not be destroyed. So this is what the disciples are asking. When are you coming back? When are you gonna, like they asked in the first chapter, like, are you now going to restore the kingdom to Israel? But let me see here. I wanted to jump down to verse 17. These four great beasts are four kings who will arise from the earth, but the saints, the believers of the Most High, the Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. So the kingdom is going to be given to the Israelites, who are the saints, which means set apart, the holy ones. And Lord will I can get that too, but this is illustrating, this is the fourth kingdom that Yahushua was in, and he's going to come and he's going to return, and it's going to be the fourth kingdom still. So just going into those signs, where we are, the era, the age. So this is back to Matthew 24, and I'm going to jump down. Matthew 24 and verse 6 in the AMP. You will continually hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end of the age. So you're going to hear of different wars, rumors of wars, different things going on around the world. You're going to hear about many things, but more has to happen. It's not the end yet. It's the end. It's signs of the end, signs that Yahushua is returning, but it's not fully the end, because what? We have Revelation 13:16, the MOTB, that micro CHIP has to be implemented, mandated, made mandatory. Jacob's trouble, which we're in the midst of. hasn't fully gone full out to where the prophets are no longer on the street, but we're in it. We see the ICE agents, different agencies ramping up, deporting citizens, deporting people that aren't criminals, throwing them in prisons around the world, not just here in America. They're shipping those people all around the world. And what else? Shoot, you have the beast system that's coming into play. Flock cameras everywhere, data centers being built everywhere, facial recognition technology. A prison is being built around you, and it's digital. So you will continually hear of wars and rumors of wars. So let me get this real quick because I asked ChatGPT this. I asked it really yesterday, but it was I asked it, what are the latest war rumors? And it says, here's a rundown of some of the latest war rumors, major conflict developments circulating now, with emphasis on what's confirmed, what remains speculative, and what's being described as rumor. So key conflicts and rumors making headlines: the Russia-Ukraine war, NATO preemptive strike talk. A senior officer from NATO has reportedly suggested that the alliance could consider a preemptive strike against Russia, a major shift from NATO's usual stated posture of defensive support. So now, this whole time since the Ukraine-Russia war has started, NATO has kept a stance like, we're not letting Ukraine join NATO because that would be in World War III, but they've supplied Ukraine with different arms, drones, weaponry, money, things like that. In other words, it's been a proxy war. So now they're suggesting, like, look, we just go ahead and strike NATO, but that's World War III official. I mean, we just go ahead and strike Russia, I said NATO, but so they're talking about going on the offense. Russian officials responded harshly, warning that such remarks risk provoking a major war. So this is a rumor. Yeah, the guy said that, and they're in talks. Nothing's really happened yet, but this is what's going on. Meanwhile, fighting continues inside Ukraine. Missile and drone strikes near Kyiv, attacks in Kherson and Donetsk regions, and Russian claims of downing hundreds of Ukrainian drones. So while they're still going. The war is still going on over there. Why it matters: if NATO were to adopt a preemptive strike posture, even if only as a deterrent or warning, it significantly raises the odds of broader escalation beyond Ukraine. So this is, wars, rumors of war. This thing could escalate, and it will escalate before this is all over. The whole world is going to be at war before Yahushua returns. He says, Yahushua said, I come to bring fire upon the earth, and what will I if it already be kindled? So war is already going to be going on. Like it says in Joel, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is going to gather the nations, and they're going to gather together in the valley of Yehoshaphat, which is in the Middle East. So World War III is going to be taking place when Yahushua returns. Even in 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, going into that, when Yahushua returns, there's going to be a great army that are already going to be in conflict, and they're going to stop doing what they're doing, fighting each other, and turn to try to fight Yahushua. And it's going to fail miserably. It says war in Sudan, collapse of ceasefire, mass displacement. The ongoing conflict between Sudanese armed forces and rapid support forces remains unresolved as of late November 2025. RSF has reportedly solidified control over parts of West Darfur after capturing key towns. The humanitarian toll continues to mount. Mass displacement, destruction of infrastructure. So that's going on over there. That's in Africa. That's Ukraine, Africa. Why it matters: this conflict, though perhaps less publicly prominent in Russia-Ukraine, remains a major humanitarian and security crisis with ripple effects across Africa, potentially beyond. So, 2025 Democratic Republic of the Congo, Rwanda conflict, escalation, proxy claims, unstable peace talks. The rebel group M23, widely accused of being backed by Rwanda, seized key cities in early 2025. Rebels advanced further into strategic regions in Walikale in March 2025. Despite attempts at ceasefire, the U.S. brokered peace agreements was tentatively reached in mid-2025, but it excludes M23, and critics argue it fails to guarantee withdrawal of foreign forces or lasting stability. Other rumors or tensions. There are persistent rumors, though mostly unverified, about deeper involvement of various outside powers in conflicts around the world. Some sources suggest possible escalation in regions currently under ceasefire. Okay. Why rumor matters more now. Global conflict dynamics remain highly fluid, alliances shifting, ceasefires fragile, new battlefronts forming, increased militarization, back channel diplomacy, and propaganda make verifying true intentions difficult, so rumors of war often carry weight even before official declarations. In many of these situations, civilian populations bear the cost of long before borders are formally crossed or wars are declared. So I said, what about Japan? Because I saw a clip about Japan. It says, good question. Yes, there are some prominent rumors, tensions, war risk signals right now that involve Japan. It's not exactly a sure thing war. Here, let me just jump down. What's happening with Japan lately? Japan is boosting its missiles and military posture. Japan has accelerated deployment of long-range missiles, including some with a range of 1,000 kilometers on islands in its southwestern region, near Kyushu, Okinawa, and other chain islands. The goal appears to give Japan stronger counter-strike deterrence capabilities, especially given rising concerns about the regional ambitions of nearby powers. So more broadly, Japan's 2025 defense policy, publicly outlined in a new defense white paper, signals a shift towards a more combat-ready posture and deeper cooperation, joint exercises with foreign militaries. So they're building up their military. They're building up their missiles. They're building up their defensive postures. They're building up, and they're getting ready. They're building up their military. If you're building up your military, you're not preparing for peace times. Japan's involvement around the Taiwan issue and China's reaction. Japan recently reaffirmed a plan to station surface-to-air missiles on islands close to Taiwan, for example, Yonaguni Island, something that would directly implicate Japan in any China-Taiwan escalation. China's government has publicly warned that if Japan steps out of line over Taiwan, Japan will pay a painful price. And they're going to go into conflict too, because what is it? Japan did a lot of stuff to China in World War II. Terrible things. That would be was it Unit 431? Hey, they were terrible to the Moabites. Debate over Japan's defensive posture. Anyway, let me jump down. Why these amount to real rumors of war, or at least high-risk warnings. Japan's increased missile deployments and broader military rearmament mark a clear shift away from decades of mostly defensive posture, making Japan less of a passive bystander and more of an active strategic actor. And don't think that Japan done forgot about what you Edomites did to them in 45 with Fat Man and Little Boy. The Taiwan-related moves, stationing missiles near Taiwan, signaling possible willingness for military involvement, means that if tensions over Taiwan erupt, Japan could be drawn into indirectly. China's strong statements warning of painful price diplomatic backlash highlight that the conflict could escalate quickly once two regional powers, Japan and China, exchanged threats. Even a small spark could trigger a broader clash. But that's everywhere around the world. Hey, tensions are high. This didn't even mention, the U.S. and Venezuela, the U.S. and other places, the U.S. involvement in other places. It didn't even mention that. So, hey, there's a lot of conflict all around the world. It didn't even mention Israel and their conflicts. Shoot, they're at war with just about every place. And then you see, different headlines that'll pop up, different videos that will pop up that they're trying to get citizenship in Portugal, get citizenship in different places, even though they're back in the homeland, supposedly. They're supposedly fulfilling prophecy. They're bringing the some so-called small hats that were up in India back. But if they're all back and all that stuff, why are they trying to get citizenship in different countries? But yeah, you know what? I'm going off the topic a little bit, but just things that you see what's going on, like all this stuff that's preparing for war. When the Israelites return home, it's going to be peace. They're not going to have to run away and do all this stuff. Matter of fact, it says the Most High is going to bring us home. But hey, that's for another lesson. So where was I? I'm not going to get that. But at the time of this, all this going on, we're going to... Shoot, I had... All this is going on. All this is going to lead to is Babylon the Great's destruction. So this is Revelation 17 in the AMP again. And I'm going to start from the top and I'm going to jump around. So the doom of Babylon, it says, then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and spoke with me, saying, come here, I will show you the judgment and the doom of the great prostitute who is seated on many waters. And it says in brackets, influencing nations. So this whore, Babylon the Great, America, whether you like to hear it or not, it's a whore. It's a prostitute. It's influencing all these other nations to commit whoredoms. Whether it be through capitalism, LGBT activities, whatever it may be, democracy, the philosophies that come out of this place. Hey, it's driving people out of their minds. And this whore was given, this beast, I should say, was given the power to take peace from the earth. Giving you the signs and the signs of who this devil is. Going all the way back to Esau, Edom, whose blessing was the sword. Says, she with whom the kings of the earth have committed acts of immorality, and the inhabitants of the earth have become intoxicated with the wine of her immorality. It says, and the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was entirely covered with blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns, representing those NATO and EU countries again. And the woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls. And she was holding in her hand a gold cup full of the abominations and the filth of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead was a name written, a mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes, false religions, heresies, and the abominations of the earth. And I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, God's people, and with the blood of the witnesses of Yahushua, who were martyred. When I saw her, I wondered in amazement. So those that believe in Yahushua, that believe in the true name of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, the true names, and a lot of us are going to be martyrs here. And this whore has been drunk with our blood. This nation was built by our blood. We've been thrown into prison houses. We've been slain all day, all night. Lynching postcards. How he's set up his system to rely wholly on him. Getting the man out of the house. Having men raised by women. So you have men that are raised by women and they have no father figure around. What do you think is going to happen to them? You got a bunch of testosterone filled women that are run on emotions, that are make a life changing decision in an instant. But hey, I'm going to jump down. Let me see here. I'm going to jump down to verse 14. The victory for the Lamb. They will wage war. Matter of fact, let me start up a little bit. Verse 12. The 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received a kingdom, but together they receive authority as kings for a single hour, for a common purpose, along with the beast. So this is what's happening. The NATO, EU countries, well, they might have kings and this, that, whatever set up. They're all giving their power and authority to Babylon the Great. Because when you look at NATO, who really runs NATO? It's America. Who really runs these different countries? Who's running the world? It's Babylon the Great. Well, they give it all to NATO, and then America is riding on top of that beast, like it says at the beginning. America's riding on top of NATO. They telling it what to do. And that beast is starting to buck up against it. Victory for the Lamb. They will wage war against the Lamb, the anointed, and the Lamb will triumph and conquer them, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him and on his side are called and chosen, elect and faithful. So what did Yahushua say? He said, I only came for the lost sheep of the house of Israel. That's who's called. That's who hears his voice, the Israelites. And it's a very small number. Compared to Israelites are like the sand of the sea. But those that hear Yahushua is a very small number in comparison. It says, then the angel said to me, the waters which you saw where the prostitute is seated are people and multitudes and nations and languages. So this whore is ruling all over that. Ruling all over the people. If you want to be a pilot, you got to speak English. Doesn't matter what nation you in, you got to speak English. If you want to, trade and do all kinds of commerce, hey, guess what? You got to do it in USD pretty much, or the petrodollar. And the 10 horns which you saw, and the beast, these will hate the prostitute and will make her desolate and naked, stripped of her power and influence, and will eat her flesh and completely consume her with fire. So these nations that are aligned right now with this whore, Babylon the Great, and they're going to turn against her. So they're going to fight against Yahushua, and they're going to turn against the whore that's riding upon them. For God has put in their hearts to carry out his purpose by agreeing together to surrender their kingdom to the beast until the prophetic words of the Most High will be fulfilled. The woman whom you saw is the great city, which reigns over and dominates and controls the kings and the political leaders of the earth. God. But I'm going to close out shortly. I'm going to go back to Daniel chapter 7, because it says, well, actually, it said it right there. Hold on. Where does it say? Called, verse 14, because he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him and on his side are called and chosen, elect and faithful. Let me see here. Where does it say? Daniel chapter 7. Here we go. Daniel chapter 7 and verse 18 in the AMP. But the saints, believers of the Most High, Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua, will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever for all ages to come. So let's get this in Psalms chapter 50 and verse 5. And I'll get into KJV first. It says, gather together my saints unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice. So the saints, the Israelites, we're the ones. Our forefathers are the ones that made a sacrifice to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, making a covenant with him, and making a marriage, and Yahweh Shai's return is going to join us back to him, back to Yahweh Shai. We'll be in the good graces of Yahweh, the Heavenly Father. So I'm gonna jump down. This is in the Bible Hub, of course. This is Exodus 23. Exodus 24 and verse 3. And it says verse 3 through 8, and it's kind of, paraphrased. It says, when Moses came down and told the people all the words and ordinances of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, they all responded with one voice, all the words that the Lord has spoken, we will do. And then Moses wrote down all the words of the Lord. Early the next morning, he got up and built an altar at the base of the mountain, along with the 12 pillars for the 12 tribes of Israel. Then he sent out some young men of Israel, and they offered burnt offerings and sacrificed young bulls. Matter of fact, let me get it real quick. But I like that it had the connected verses. And it's telling you, Exodus 24 and verse 5, and he sent young men of the children of Israel, which offered burnt offerings and sacrificed peace offerings of oxen unto Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. And Moses took half of the blood and put it in basins, and half of the blood he sprinkled on the altar. And he took the book of the covenant and read it in the audience of the people, and they said, all that Yahweh have said will we do, and be obedient. And Moses took the blood and sprinkled it on the people, and said, behold, the blood of the covenant, which Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai have made with you concerning all these words. So this is the Israelites, the 12 tribes. They made a sacrifice. They made a covenant with Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. And it keeps going. This is Jeremiah 31 and 31 through 34. And we'll paraphrase again. Behold, the days are coming, declares Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. It will not be like the covenant I made with their fathers when I took them by the hand to lead them out of the land of Egypt, a covenant they broke, though I was an husband to them, declares Yahweh. But this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. I will put my law in their minds and inscribe it in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they will be my people. So this is for the Israelites. And when Yahweh Shai returns, this is what's going to take place. This is what we're looking forward to. And we're in these times. And we're patiently awaiting to see Yahweh Shai's return. But hey, that's all I got. Lord willing, this has been edifying. I'm going to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'Shem Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. Hey, shalom.